Today we are going to be talking about comparing numbers using benchmarks or a benchmark fraction. And what that means is we will take a fraction that we've got and we will compare that to a fraction that we already know really well, either a whole, a half, or zero. Now, let's start off by looking at 3/10. I want to compare that to a half, a whole, or zero, and for now and for most of our examples we'll just work off of a half, and we'll say, okay, well, is 3/10 bigger than a half or smaller than a half, or is it closer to 1 or is it closer to 0? And so the way that we do that is we look at 3/10, and what that means is we've got a whole amount divided into 10 equally sized parts. So we're going to divide each of these pictures up into 10 equally sized parts. And we're going to say, hey, if I've got something divided into 10 parts, what would the whole look like? Well, the whole, we know, would be all 10 parts out of 10 colored in. And we know that 3/10 is not equal to a whole. We know that 3/10 is much less than a whole. 3/10 is less than 10/10. And that's fairly easy to see. Now, what I am interested in is a half. Well, if my whole is 10/10, I know that my half is going to be 5/10, because 5 is half of 10. So 5/10 is going to be this one, and for here I'm going to color in 5 of these blocks. All right, and I think you might be able to see where this is going. So in my last one here, I'm going to show you what 3/10 looks like, and this is going to be 3 blocks. Which is bigger, 5/10 or 3/10? Well, 3/10 is 2/10 short of 5/10. So I know that 3/10 is less than 5/10. Okay, and I know that 5/10 is an equivalent fraction for a half. 5/10 is equal to 1/2. That's why I chose it as my benchmark. 5/10 is a half. And because I use this benchmark, I can say that 3/10 is less than 1/2. I hope you guys are all with me so far, because we are going to look at some new examples. Here I have 3/8 and I have 4/6. We're going to deal with 3/8 first. Now, I want to know, is 3/8 bigger or smaller than my benchmark of a half? Well, if I've got something broken up into 8 pieces, I know that a half would be 4 of those 8 pieces. So let's color that in. 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces out of my whole. 4 out of 8 is a half. So this is a half. Is 3/8 bigger or smaller than a half? Well, 3/8 would be, let's put these lines in. 3/8 would be 1, 2, 3. But 4/8 is slightly bigger than that. It's 1/8 bigger. So I'm going to say that 3/8 is smaller than a half. And now we deal with 4/6. If I look at 4/6, it's split into 6 equal parts. Half of 6 is 3, so 3/6 will be my halfway amount. All right, but I've got how many? I've got 4/6, so let's color that in. 1, 2, 3, and 4 is more than halfway. So 4/6 is going to be greater than 3/6. Okay, 3/8 is less than a half. 4/6 is greater than a half. Okay, 3/6 is equal to a half. They are equivalent fractions. All right, that's the whole point of this thing. So when we use benchmark fractions to compare numbers, I'm going to look at my fraction and I'm going to say, hey, is this number bigger than a half or smaller than a half? And I'm going to find an equivalent fraction with the same denominator in order to help me decide that. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you guys have a wonderful day and good luck answering the questions on this.